One of the things we are famous for is identifying authors and artists before they get huge.
Yes.
Before anyone had heard of J.K. Rowling in America, we did one of her first signings. The same with Gregor Maguire for Wicked. The same with, I'm trying to think who else. I mean, we have been there at the very beginning of so many authors' careers, supporting their first book because we were excited about it. We thought it was important. Rick Riordan, there's another one. Rick Riordan, who did the Percy Jackson books. We did an event with him for the first few books before when they were looking for bookstores that were willing to have him. Then of course he became a bestseller, and the list was endless. And Rick is among those who've been very loyal in terms of being good to us. And that is definitely true. I find that a lot of stores have trouble getting a lot of people to turn out for a new author unless they have it's a local author who can bring in their own audience.
Hello, this is Mitch Tarr, CEO and founder of Zen Marketing, Inc. We're an email marketing agency, and we're doing this podcast to share some tips and strategies on how to be a better e-commerce entrepreneur. And today I have Peter Glassman with me. He is the founder and owner of the booksofwonder.com bookstore in New York City. Great story. And we have a really delightful interview with some really good insight on how to make your entity different. One of the cardinal rules of marketing is not to be the same, but to be different. So there's some good insight from Peter. He has 46 years of entrepreneurial wisdom in the field of selling books. It's a really fascinating story. Some good advice. And we talked about Tarzan, and we talked about the Hardy Boys, and we talked about Meg Ryan. Stay tuned. It's a good interview. Hi, Peter. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. So let's just dig right in. You've been in business for a long time. Tell us about the genesis of your getting in business way back in the day.
Well, I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad owned his own business. My grandfather owned his own business. My other grandfather ran the family business. So the idea of owning my own business was not certainly strange to me. At 15, I got my first job in a bookstore and fell in love with it. I was already a book lover, and I'd applied for a job actually the day I turned 14, which is legal working age where I grew up. But they decided I was a little young and waited until I was 15 to give me a job. And I loved doing it. And when I moved to New York in 1979, I thought I wanted to be an actor, but I found a book, but to put a roof over my head and pay the bills, I got a job in a bookstore again, and quickly realized that my love of books was as great as my love of acting, and a lot less frustrating for a career. And so I decided to open my own bookstore at the age of 20.
20 years old. Wow, that's amazing. So I kind of have a similar story, except I never went into the business. But when I was 17, working in a bookstore, when I was in high school, and in that same era. So in the early days, getting established, was it difficult? Was it easy? How competitive was it? Like, what was that like?
Well, when we started out, my main emphasis was antiquarian books. I had worked in new bookstores for 4.5 years, I guess, which was, almost a quarter of my life at that point. So I thought I knew it all, which of course I didn't. And I thought, well, maybe what I'll do is, I wanted to pursue antiquarian books, and I'd gotten a job at a bookstore, learned about that. I'd been studying them for like the last 2 years, and decided I would open a bookstore specializing in antiquarian books. But when we filled the bookshelves my late husband had built for us, I discovered that I had like 4 empty shelves. And so fortunately, the biggest distributor in the area at the time, and still one of the few remaining distributors of books, is Bookazine. And they were at that time about 3-4 blocks from where my store was located. They had their warehouse back then was in New York. So I went over there, picked out several shelves of my favorite books, threw them on the shelves just to fill the shelves as anything else. And people responded to that personal selection. And it grew to the point where by the time we had left that store, we were 50-50. And then after 2 years, we moved to a bigger store where we were about, I guess, 25-75%, and continued to expand until today when we're about 80% new books and 20% antiquarian. Um, and it's just been a journey. In the beginning, it was rough. Getting any business established, getting customers to know you're there when you haven't existed before is always a challenge. And particularly back in 1980 when I opened, which was, there were not a lot of, particularly in New York, not a lot of economical ways to spread the word. In smaller cities or small towns, you have local press that is much more economical than the New York Times is to advertise in. So we had to learn how to do what's called, I guess, guerrilla marketing. And we did a lot of a lot of leaflets and mail order and catalogs and signs in the window and that sort of stuff, just to get the word out about us.
Back in those early days, how difficult was it for you to identify who your customers were going to be? When did that start to gel?
I'd say it took close to a year before I had a firm idea about who our customers were. And it's a very broad range. It still is. That was the interesting thing about it, is we have people coming from a wide demographic of incomes, backgrounds, educational backgrounds. Although the last time we did an a total, real in-depth study of our customers was about a decade ago, with interviews and the whole thing. We discovered that something like 70-80% of our customers had higher degrees. That seems to be well educated. Seems to be a mark of people who are interested in books.
Yeah. So has that makeup changed over the years? And how much online does that, how much is in person, how much online for you?
Um, well, when we started out, there was no such thing as online. And we did what was called mail order in those days. And we issued catalogs, and we built a very significant mail order business. It got to the point where it was, I'd say, about a third of the business. And then we had to switch over to um, online. And that was a difficult transition for us at first. And at this point, I'd say it's still roughly one third online and two-thirds retail. Although I'd like eventually to switch that. We have not obviously done it as in depth a thing more recently, but I tend to find that we get a lot of people who are at least college educated, and it seems to be a lot of people who are just very very passionate about books, and particularly about getting books for their children. Although we also have a lot of collectors who are collecting children's books for themselves. And we have people ordering from literally all over the world. Um, and unlike most bookstores, from what I've come to understand, only about 20% of our online business is from our local geographic area. And that may be partially because we had this strong mail order business before and already had a national presence as a result of that. It may have been that because the store got a lot of attention nationally over the years in various ways. Good thanks to articles. And of course, a big factor was the fact that the movie You've Got Mail, was the interior of the children's bookstore in that movie was based on my store. And the fact that Meg Ryan worked there for a week getting ready for her role as a bookseller kind of, landed us in a lot of publicity around the film, which got us a lot of exposure. Um,
Yeah. And so does that still, I mean, I know the movie, it was a great movie. I loved it. Is that still a factor that you use today, or is kind of that era has passed?
Amazingly, we are constantly I'm finally constantly finding us being mentioned in articles online about the film. The film is still beloved by a lot of people, and it is one of those things where we are constantly getting re-exposed to a new audience thanks to that. The other thing we're famous for is the fact that we republished all the Oz books by L. Frank Baum in full color, which had not, they had been out, the color illustrations had not been available since around 1935 when we started reissuing them in 1985. So that would have been 50 years they've been unavailable. We got the series completed by 2000 in time for the 100th anniversary of The Wizard of Oz, and they've continued to be available for 26 years, which is, a lot of people, are very enthusiastic about Oz, and the fact that our name appears on every book has certainly gotten us a lot of awareness out there that we are a store that, among other things, specializes in Oz.
Yeah, that's really interesting because that leads into a little conversation about how you make yourself different. Like, what are the things in addition to what we just talked about? How do you position yourself as being a different place than?
Well, like most of the independents that bookstores that have continued to thrive, there was a huge purge in the 90s. Um, the big thing is that we have a very, very carefully curated selection. Even though we carry a vast number of books, given the huge, huge number of children's books available out there, we can't carry them all. And we are very careful to choose the books we think are going to both delight and, what would be the right word? Enlighten, maybe, the children who read them. I hesitate to use the word educate because we're not an educational bookstore. That's not our emphasis. Our emphasis is on getting kids to love reading and to read for the pleasure of reading. I've always said that, the child who reads because it's a school assignment and that's all they read is not a real reader. And it's the child who goes on to read because they want to read who is, and all studies have shown that those children who do love reading and read for the pleasure of reading tend to do better in life.
Yeah, I don't think that'll ever go away. Do you?
No. I used to laugh when people would tell me how e-readers were going to replace the physical book and that I was working in an industry that was dying. The only people who said that were people who were reading articles written by technology buffs. No one in the book industry believed that for a minute. The general wisdom was it's going to be an alternative form, like paperbacks were when they were introduced, like any other form, like board books were when they were introduced, and indeed, ebooks have settled out at about 20% of the overall book market, and maybe 5 to 10% of the children's book market. It's not really a key factor in children's books, ebooks. I always said, who wants the child to curl up on their lap while they hold a laptop in front of them, or show their child a screen? It's not the same as a bedtime story.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. So then, in terms of your website, that story, how do you make that story come through on the website?
It was a challenge, that's for sure. One of the things we did from the beginning was in our marketing of the website, we approached it as largely about the events we hold with authors. One of the things we specialize in from the very beginning, and this is a blessing perhaps of being in New York, which offsets the problems of much higher expenses than anywhere else, probably, except maybe San Francisco, was that so many authors and artists live in New York, and if they don't, they come to New York because that's where the publishers are mostly based, and there are reasons for them to be in New York fairly often. And as a result, we were befriended by, to be quite honest, a huge number of best-selling, well-known, and well-beloved children's book authors and artists from the beginning. And our ability to put together events with these people was amazing to most people. It was not very few bookstores were able to manage the schedule of events we managed for children's books, and the translating that into what the website, featuring that on the website, featuring the sign books, featuring the events and what was going on, and using the events to publicize the store and what was happening in the store, that the store was a place to come to for things that are happening. And even people who couldn't make the events, we always made it clear that we will have signed books afterwards. So if you want to get a signed copy, come by afterwards and we will have them for you. And that was a big part of the growth of both our mail order business and maintaining it online.
Yeah. And has the mail order business morphed into kind of an email business, being able to keep in touch with people that way?
Yes, absolutely. We no longer do physical catalogs. We just do emails. And we did for a while some catalogs we can mail out in PDF form.
PDF, yeah.
And we found that although there were customers who loved it, most of the customers were just happy to go online and look at what they want. And so the effort was not worth the return at that point. So we've just put more effort into doing more emails. We maintain a pretty constant for the last 5 years, 41% open rate on our emails. So
very good. Very good.
As I always like to say, I don't know what we're doing right, but I wish I did so I could increase it. But we seem to really do very well. And we have about, about 80,000 people who receive our emails, I think it is.
And do you have those people segmented into different groups or audiences?
We don't, because it changes so quickly. A child who is 7 years old today and reading, let's say, still maybe being read picture books or early readers, within a year to 18 months is reading on a whole different level. And so trying to segment, unless we know the specific age of the child, it's hard. And we don't usually. We just know what books the parent is buying, or the grandparent or the aunt, the uncle, whoever's buying them for the child. And again, we have parents who have multiple age children, so we see people buying wide ranges of books. And of course, when you get to the holiday season, we have people buying for all ages because they're, filling their gift list from us. And that is something we've specialized in for many years, which is that when people come to the store, we are able to find the right book for the child they're shopping for, whether or not they know what the child likes to read. By asking questions about the children, by asking about the specific child, actually, and getting to know what they're about, maybe just something about their interests or their background or where they're from, we can almost 9 times out of 10 pick a book that a child won't just like, they will love. And people come back amazed that we're able to do that.
Yeah. It's funny, I was just in the local library the other day with my mother buying some of their overstock, and they had the old Hardy Boys series, which as a kid, I read every single one of those things.
I got them too. They were like popcorn. They were just fun and fast and always a delight.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you ever get tired of talking books?
No.
With people?
No. My love of books has never decreased. That's been a constant in my life. Ironically, I was the only one of my siblings who didn't teach himself to read. I didn't learn to read till I was in first grade, but I took to it like a duck to water once my teachers showed me how. So, yeah, it's been a lifelong love affair with books.
Yeah. Well, I noticed on your website, I did a search, as I always do, for Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff. And so I saw the first edition Tarzan of the Apes copy there, and I had that edition. It had a red cover on it, but I also, sometime in the 80s, got a new dog, came home one day, and that dog had shredded that book, just one little bite at a time. And I was heartbroken.
Yes.
More because my grandmother had given me that book. She had it in her library, so she gave it to me, and I was protecting it. I loved it so much. I had it on the coffee table, and the dog. we went to work, and we came home. No more book.
One of the happiest moments in my life was when we finally could afford a two bedroom apartment, and one bedroom could be my library, which cat and dog were forbidden from.
Yeah. Well, my wife is an artist and she keeps art books. We have just walls of art books. She's a voracious student of art history as well. Um, so I have to ask the question I usually ask everybody: what do you think of this whole AI thing? What's it doing to your business, or what do you think it's going to do to your business?
Right now, it is. We're just starting to look at it. We've been watching it, and I mean, we use it for research. But I find that it is too still error prone to truly trust it. And I also have read enough and heard enough online about stuff about AI written things that it doesn't have the quality of what we try to get across. It comes across as mass produced, perhaps would be the right word. It doesn't have that personal touch that I find really good writing does, particularly copywriting. Um,
Yeah, particularly copywriting.
yeah, and I was lucky. My best friend back in the mid '80s came to work for me, having a background in copywriting, and taught me what he everything he knew about copywriting. And I have tried to pass that on to my staff. And some it's interesting. It is an art form, copywriting, that some people can learn and some people just can't. And it's never figured out why some people just seem resistant to it.
Yeah, it's a. I think of all of the aspects of marketing. My emphasis or focus is primarily direct response marketing. So copywriting lives in that space. And over the years, I've worked directly with some world class copywriters, and I've learned from them, and I've hired them. I've hired them, and it's a really what's the right word? It's a human thing. It's like music. It's a human thing. So I'm sure the computer will get it eventually, but it isn't quite there yet.
Absolutely. I mean, artificial intelligence is growing by leaps and bounds. It's advancing. I mean, a year ago, it was much more primitive than it is right now. And you know, I find, like, when I use it for research, it helps if I'm already rather expert or knowledgeable, at least, of what I'm researching, so that when it comes up with the wrong answer, I know it or can recognize it or can question it. And sometimes I use it a lot for the antiquarian end when I'm researching the history of a book, trying to find books in libraries around the world, that institutions that have copies that I can reference, and things of that nature. And or publishing for the more modern books, publishing history, because most publishers, there is information. Publishers Weekly goes back well over 100 years in the United States. And sometimes it'll come back with a statement. I'm like, no, no, that was the reissue from the 50s. I'm looking for the edition that was first published in 1912. And, you have to you have to correct it. And the one nice thing about correcting artificial intelligence is it never takes it personally.
Exactly. You don't hurt its feelings.
No. Sometimes I look at my staff and I'll say, "Why do you look like a kicked puppy?" I'm just trying to help. I'm just trying to improve what we're working on.
That's funny. So you've been in business for a long time, decades, in a competitive marketplace that some say is on the decline. And I agree with you. I don't think it is. What advice would you give to people these days that haven't lived through that are on their own entrepreneurial journey, that are figuring these things out? They're moving their markets. They're afraid of competition. They're afraid of Amazon. They're afraid of everything. What advice would you give someone sort of undertaking that journey?
Well, if you're competing with someone like Amazon, who obviously is a competitor of ours, it's important to segment and differentiate yourself. That's my first advice: is try and create a presence or a market or a um, inventory, a presentation that makes you unique, something that makes you stand out from being just a vanilla or generic business. I can't think of anything harder to do than just, say, we're like everybody else, come shop with us. One of the things that we've always had an advantage in is being a specialist, which is, because we are purely about children's books. That drives a lot of people to us who are looking for more expertise than they can get in, a generic bookstore. Not that there aren't good children's booksellers in those stores. There are, but they can't necessarily be there, every day and every time. So people feel, and of course, as I say, the authors and artists have been so supportive of my store over the years. I can never be thankful enough to them. They have supported my store, come and done events at my store. Years ago, do you remember the book from your childhood, A Wrinkle in Time?
No.
Okay, it's a classic from the 60s. And the author, Madeline Engel, I by luck met when I was in college on the train platform in Providence, Rhode Island. I was going to Brown. She had been lecturing at Providence College, and we were both on our way to New York, and I just happened to meet her. And we became friends. And some years later, she was kind enough to literally not only insist that she had to do an appearance at our store for a new book, which was a big deal, but she literally told her publisher that if she can't do an event at Books of Wonder, she didn't want to go on tour. To which I told her, don't ever do that again, Madeline. I love you, but don't, I know what you're risking your career over us. But that's the kind of loyalty and friendship we've had from authors and artists over the years. Another famous author, Lloyd Alexander, I found out some years after we'd had regular events with him on a ongoing basis as each new book came out, that he'd stopped doing events at any other store for years. And I was like, didn't know this. So that kind of friendship and loyalty has just been amazing. I'd like to think part of it is because the respect and devotion we have to their work and the way we promote it to people as being important and quality and moving.
Yeah, so you kind of get known for that in the author circles, I guess.
It's a little embarrassing to me sometimes when an author will say to me, I've always dreamed of doing, the first time they do an event with us, it's always been my dream to do an event at your bookstore. And I'm like, well, it's very flattering, but we are just a bookstore, It's not like this is the Taj Mahal or, or Carnegie Hall. But it's very flattering, and it's lovely that people feel that way. And if I'm happy to give people their dream that way.
Yeah. Well, I think that sort of thing, the theme has come out a couple of times today, how you make yourself unique, or the things that have happened to you that have ended up making you unique in your space, that have been, part of the cornerstone of your marketing.
Yes. Keeping us unique has been very important. Our selection is distinctive. People come into our store and it's not like, oh, I've seen this in every other store. It's very much that we have a presentation and a focus that is different from most stores. For years and years, people would come into our store and say, gee, I've never seen so many face-out books in a bookstore before. Because, I've always said the person who said, don't judge a book by its cover wasn't in the book business. Covers are what sell books, and people want to see the cover, and particularly children want to see the covers. That's what gets them excited. That's what gets their interest. That's what makes them pick it up off the shelf and look at it. And I think that's very important. And it's proved to work very well for us. Other stores take a very different approach to shelving, and it's not wrong. It's just a different approach.
Yep. Peter, just before we wrap up, let people know where they can find your online presence.
Our store's name is Books of Wonder, and our store's website is at www.booksofwonder.com.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate your ideas and thoughts, and some great advice in there for other entrepreneurs.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed that and found some information in there that is actionable and helps you to grow your business. As you may or may not know, it's in marketing. We've been doing email marketing for companies for 18 years now. And we know a thing or two because we've learned a thing or two. But I want to make you an offer. The first thing we do when we take on a new e-commerce client is to build out their welcome series. It's not flashy, but it is consistently one of the largest revenue generators of all the flows that we install. And most brands don't have a good one. So if you feel like you might not have a good one, I want to give you a head start. Send me your site. Just send me an email to mitch@zinmarketing.com. And I'll map out a custom welcome series flow for your brand. The flow, the angles, all the copy that you use. Basically enough material to basically make it live. Free money, if you will. Just done for you. No strings attached. I'll send everything back via email. Send an email to mitch@zinmarketing.com. Free welcome flow.